Hello and welcome to this Advective weather video on the dangerous weather threatening the United States today. Starting off with the main risk, unfortunately, today is one of those days where violent tornadoes may be possible. Accordingly, a moderate 4 out of 5 risk is in place for those strong to violent tornadoes, with the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center saying that unusually strong tornadoes will be possible today. In addition, very large hail to baseball size or larger has already been observed and will continue well into the overnight hours. And with all these storms, there will be the threat of damaging winds, which should be fairly widespread. You need to have a tornado safety plan ready for the whole risk region, especially that enhanced and moderate areas. But most importantly, you need to have a way to receive warnings in the overnight hours for the southern parts of the event today. From central Missouri southwards, the threat does not come in the afternoon, but in the after dark hours, potentially after midnight, well into the evening, when plenty of people have already gone to sleep. You need to have a way to be woken up if a strong to violent tornado is moving towards your house from central Missouri south, which means you need to have ideally a weather radio, but you should have your mobile phone fully charged, and if there's someone that will still be awake at that time, get them to call you if a tornado warning is issued for your area. You want to have every way to receive that warning so you've got the best chance of making it to a safe place if a dangerous tornado is moving towards you today, and there likely will be several dangerous tornadoes that touch down across the slight enhanced moderate risks this afternoon and this evening. What's driving this weather today is a deep area of low pressure across Iowa with an expansive warm sector, very warm and humid weather occurring from Texas all the way to northeast United States at the moment. Behind that, very, very dry weather across western Oklahoma, western Kansas, western Texas into New Mexico and Colorado. Dew points are so low they're in the negatives across parts of this region, which is driving an extreme fire risk. Go over that important weather later in this video. Additionally, a quite substantial late season blizzard is sweeping across northern United States. Go through that later in the video as well. Focusing in on the cities, quite a large area impacted today, so we can't go super in depth, but you can see the general areas that are impacted by the risks today, and you can see if your county, if you know it on the map, is in or outside of a particular risk. But looking more in depth at the about the specific types, the tornado, 15% hatched risk driving most moderates, and the 10% tornado risk driving most of the enhanced area as well. Around that, the usual 5 and 2% tornado risks, which does include Chicago. So keep an eye out in the Chicago area. Tornadoes potentially strong, possible for you depending how the storms play out today. Looking further, the wind threat today, not as high as we've seen previously. It's only a 30% non-hatch, which means most gusts will be below hurricane force, but there still could be a few outlier storms like we saw earlier today. We've already had a supercell move through eastern Iowa, including the Davenport Metro, and northwestern Illinois that produced baseball-sized hail and 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts. We could see more isolated storms like that producing similarly dangerous weather, which would produce the same damage as an EF1 tornado. So, if you get a dangerous severe thunderstorm warning like that, treat it as you would a tornado and move to your safe place as soon as possible. Finally, the hail risk. Baseball-sized hail possible anywhere in that hatched risk region, but focus particularly across northern Missouri, eastern Iowa, northwestern Illinois, and southern Wisconsin. Finally, today's weather models, focusing on the northern risk region first, you can see those storms fire across Iowa. The northern ones likely to be hailers, but the ones on the south side could well be producing strong to violent tornadoes. They're the ones we're particularly concerned about, and they're what the moderate risk is for. Eastern Iowa into northwestern Illinois, very dangerous environment today, one of the most explosive ones we've seen. Uncertain if the storms will be able to tap into that environment, but if they do, you need to be fully aware of what they're capable. Looking towards the southern parts of that risk region, you can see not much happening for quite a few hours, and then as we get into the evening hours past sunset, suddenly storms fire, with the potential for strong to violent tornadoes again across parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, potentially into Texas, but that's more uncertain. And then moving on to tomorrow, the event continues. The storm isn't going to wind up as quickly as it typically happens because of how big this warm sector is. the storms will move northeastwards into parts of the Midwest, Mid-South, including Michigan and Ohio that don't normally see too high of a tornado threat. Been quite a few years since a big outbreak in this region, particularly for the northern and northeastern parts of this region, so everyone needs to be paying particular attention tomorrow. Supercells are expected, and these will bring the threat of large hail and strong tornadoes, that's EF2+. Damaging wind threat will be present throughout the risk areas. You need to start preparing for a potent severe weather outbreak for your local area, which means you need to know your tornado safety plan. Setup for tomorrow, you can see that low pressure system doesn't move that far, it moves northward into Minnesota, but the warm sector where the severe thunderstorms are possible moves eastwards. And that once again comes from Texas northwards into Michigan. Having a more in-depth look at these maps again, you can see the big cities that are in the risk areas, quite a few in that enhanced risk, including Columbus, Cincinnati, Detroit. Places that don't particularly see enhanced risks that often. And you can see that northern risk area, including Detroit, Grand Rapids, Gaylord, Cleveland, Chicago, and Indianapolis, is being driven by the threat of strong tornadoes. This could also be upgraded in future outlooks, so please pay attention and look to your local National Weather Service offices for further information. The whole enhanced risk has a threat for damaging wind gusts, 60-70 miles an hour. Again, isolated wind gusts above hurricane force will be possible, but aren't currently expected. Finally, large hail threat is also present across northern risk regions, across the exact same region that has a strong tornado threat. And here's the HRRR model output for tomorrow. You can see that arc of storms fairly early in the afternoon starts across Illinois and then moves through Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, with storms producing damaging winds. A bit more erratically farther south, but still some strong winds and potentially a couple of tornadoes in that line across Indiana and Ohio. Of course, when these tornado watches are issued, that's when you need to be in your tornado ready mode. A tornado could impact you, but is not expected imminently. As soon as you get that tornado warning, that means a tornado is likely to impact you, and you should move to your safe place immediately. That's when you take action. If there are other people in this risk region that you think may need help, there are several things you can do. Of course, you want to help them identify a safe place. That does not include a mobile home, where 70% of tornado fatalities occur. You are more likely to survive by leaving your mobile home and lying down in a ditch outside than staying in the mobile home when a tornado arrives. Of course, you may not know to leave to move to a safe place if you do not have that warning come through with the overnight storms today. So you need to have a way to receive warnings in the night, to wake up with sufficient time to get to a safe place and leave the death trap that your mobile home becomes in a strong tornado. Here is a helpful graphic from National Weather Service New Orleans for what to do with overnight severe weather. Make sure you have all these things if you can. Not easy to get a weather radio at short notice, but everything else you can definitely do. Feel free to pause and of course visit National Weather Service websites for further information. Now, moving on to the aforementioned winter weather, we have a fairly historic late season blizzard from Wyoming through to Minnesota, including both the Dakotas. Widespread 2 foot of snow possible. Blizzard conditions are expected, and after this, wind chills will fall below 0, which is life-threatening for anyone who gets stranded in the snow. In addition, potential for damaging winds with wind gusts in excess of 50 miles an hour, particularly with stuff that's laden with snow or ice in the far eastern regions, that could easily cause additional damage to structures that might not normally fail during a snowstorm. Finally, here's the broad scale pattern for the next couple of days. You can see that storm, which has been brewing for a couple of days across the mountain west, moves across the northern plains and brings that blizzard before dying out over northeastern Canada, with the severe weather ongoing across the central and eastern United States. Here's a look at the warnings. You can see blizzard warnings, quite unusual to see that many from central Wyoming all the way through to Minnesota. most of North Dakota and much of South Dakota in those blizzard warnings. Certainly a rare sight to see. Some winter storm warnings and ice storm warnings also in effect. And here's what those warnings mean. Anywhere with a blizzard warning, travel is ill-advised because it will be almost impossible. And as mentioned, if you get stranded, you could well be faced with those life-threatening wind chills below zero after the snow ends. Do not travel in the blizzard warnings until after the storm has passed, for your own good. These warnings aren't issued to interrupt your day or make things more annoying. They're there for safety reasons and safety reasons alone. Please stay in a safe place. You should be there now because the snow is arriving, and remain there until after the storm has passed and an all clear has been given. After the storm, of course, you want to have a way to stay warm if the power was knocked out. Be careful with those, there's always a fire risk. Practice generator safety, keeping them well away from any doors, windows or garages to avoid poisoning from the fumes, and check on any neighbours once you and your family are safe and warm. Finally, moving on to the fire weather. An extremely critical fire weather risk is in place today from eastern New Mexico into central Kansas. This is very dangerous weather. Extremely low humidity and gale force winds will combine with the ongoing the severe drought to produce extremely dangerous fire weather conditions across this whole region, and they've already started at the time of this video and will continue to spread throughout the day. Extreme caution should be used whenever you're dealing with something hot. You want to avoid sparks and open flames at all costs, and in particular, something people don't often notice is that car exhausts, when they come into contact with dry grass, can cause fire on days like today, so be careful where you park your car. But the bottom line is, do not burn under any circumstances in the critical or extreme fire weather risks. Finally, a more in-depth look at that region. You can see all the cities. Includes Lubbock, Childress, Amarillo in Texas, Clovis and Hobbs in eastern New Mexico, Guyman, Woodward in western Oklahoma, Liberal, Dodge City, Great Bend, Pratt and Hutchinson in Kansas, and does include far southeastern Colorado as well. Having a look at the red flag warnings, which come all the way from far southeastern Arizona through to Iowa, which has a moderate risk of strong tornadoes and a fire risk today for various parts of the state, of course. The same is true for Missouri and Oklahoma and Texas. So you want to be taking particular attention. Eastern parts, watch out for those storms. Western parts, beware of the fire weather today. And of course, when the red flag warnings are issued, critical fire weather conditions are happening or are about to happen. You avoid burning at all costs and you safely dispose of cigarettes. Fires can and will spark and grow very quickly. Unfortunately, several fires have already been observed and these are likely to grow substantially with the dangerous weather today. That's all for this video. We hope we've been informative. We will be live later covering the severe weather. If there are any breaks in that coverage, we'll have time to talk about the dangerous fire and winter weather. But of course, if you have any specific questions, you can ask in the comments below or join us on our Discord where an active discussion is ongoing regarding the weather today. Thank you very much and please stay safe.